Like we've got the most corrupt, incompetent. I can't imagine how they could be doing a worse job.
Yeah.
Basically, the current government. Like I honestly, I can't figure out how they could do it worse. But anyway,
but every day you see another thing, and you're just like, yep, okay.
yeah, and yet, okay, they're polling like 40+%, and the opposition are just as inept and completely like so out of touch. And I feel both parties are failing to represent the bases of their sort of like traditional voters. Like the Conservatives have gone from being very fiscally kind of like, yeah, we're going to look after the economy, and you can call all their austerity stuff bullshit if you want, but like that's what they believed
Yes,
in,
yeah.
right?
Concern.
And they've ignored that. And on the other side, like the Labour Party, it seems, are attempting to do everything they can to piss off all the new members that joined because of Jeremy Corbyn. And yet, these two parties dominate like 70 to 80% of the vote. Like, why are more people not making the same decision that you have to look elsewhere?
I think a lot of people can't, and I understand it as well. It's like, it's what you know. Like, we've always been brought up that it's Labour and Conservatives, red versus blue. Like, there's never really been an alternative narrative that's been talked about, and obviously that feeds into our electoral system, like first past the post. Like, I think people normally, when they go into the ballot box, they're not looking and going, this is the person I want to vote for. They're looking at it and going, this is the least worst option out of however many are competing in that constituency or that ward or wherever else. And I think that's the fundamental issue with British politics at the moment, is that we've got a system that doesn't work and isn't fair, but then we've also got an electorate that are very apathetic and very frustrated with how things are going. And when you look at the political options that are out there, especially in some seats, like some seats you'll be lucky to even get like three parties that are putting themselves forward. It's just a lack of choice. It's a lack of choice, and I think that's what we kind of want to do as a party, is sort of offer like a real alternative, like a radical alternative to the status quo.
Hmm. So when we go back to the party, then, so where did the name even come from?
Yeah, so I guess the idea of breakthrough was the idea of breaking through the two-party system. That's how I initially envisaged it when we're thinking of names for it. Like I think that is ultimately what we want to do. Like, but we don't want to be the Lib Dems. I just want to clarify that when we talk about breaking through, because especially when we talk like look back to 2010, that's what they're sort of saying. Oh, we're going to break the two-party system. But they're pretty much just like in the middle of they were in the middle of Labour and the Tories, but you could argue now they're probably even further left than Labour at the moment. But when we talk about we talk about breaking through the two-party system, breaking through this political system that simply isn't representative of wider society. And that's what we kind of want to do. We want to make a breakthrough in this political system and offer people something more radical. When I use the word radical as well, I think that can put people off. But when I say radical, I mean like just offering quite common sense stuff. Like, like the sort of like a higher living wage, like affordable housing, like more, like when we talk about climate change, like how can we actually like bring in policies that can actually curb it? Like these are actually quite common sense policies, but they're deemed as radical in our country because of how far the Overton window has shifted to the right. But like to the electorate and to this country at the moment, these are radical things, and we want to offer that and say like, look, there is an alternative out there. We can make like meaningful change to your life, and that's what we're kind of trying to do as a party.
It's interesting that you mentioned the Overton window. Like this, something I find like really fascinating is that I'm not even 100% sure that this is like a left right ideology thing. I think it's like status quo versus change sort of dynamic that we're coming up against here, which like also like the breakthrough metaphor fits beautifully there as well. But I definitely think you're speaking to something interesting there, in that it's like that you're addressing issues that people like recognize across the board as being something that we like quote unquote have to deal with, right? Be that climate change, be that the housing markets or the housing crisis, the lack of affordable housing for younger people to get on the property ladder, living wages, lack of, say, like careers. There's jobs, but not careers. There's loads of things that are like kind of underlying there that are bad for society overall. And a lot of people like talk about them being a problem, but yet the system that we have has no desire to fix any of them, because it's either against the interests of the rich and powerful or their donors, or it's just sort of inconvenient and they lack the imagination. It's totally broken.
It is. You're absolutely spot on though, Josh. Like when you talk about us, as a country, we're the sixth richest country in the world, and we've got 2.5 million people using food banks. That is not the sign of a successful country or a rich country. Like, however they want to spin it. At the end of the day, like, this country is failing. And, we've seen it. I think the pandemic has highlighted the inequality in our country. And it's kind of, I think a lot of people's eyes have been opened during this pandemic. And I'm hoping they stay open, because like there is so much we can do to make this country a better place. I think, as you say, people in power are making the political choice not to deal with it, rather than it's being a financial choice. Like, we have the money. We've seen during this pandemic, we have the money. The amount that we spent on the track and trace system doesn't work. The amount we spent on the furlough scheme, the amount that was been given to Tory mates, donors, people they're sleeping with, this is like, at the end of the day, this is clear for people to see. So like, it exists. It's just a political choice that they're making, not to actually give this money to the causes and the issues that we're actually facing.
Thanks for making it all the way to the end of the podcast. Don't forget our sponsor, ExpressVPN, and my book, Brexit, The Establishment Civil War, can both be found in the links in the description below. And also, please like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. It's the best way to help us grow. Until next time, thanks for listening. Screw the hedge funds.
You can make as many rules as you want, but if there's no teeth behind them, what's the point?
Well, like, Citadel is potentially just gone in a few months. It feels like financial institutions, that they are all laughing at us by buying GME. Screw the hedge funds. Like, I will lose my entire investment if it brings them down.
Why on earth, last May, could you buy the entire company for $200 million?
What's been happening on Reddit and in social media and in the marketplace has never been seen before.
I argue that nothing is off the table. There is nothing off the table when dealing with the volumes of money in something as big as the United States stock market.
The hedge funds have clearly underestimated a group of people raised on Friday night World of Warcraft raids.
Dark pools, they're another mechanism to manipulate and cheat. Mainstream journalists don't say these things for a number of reasons. One is their sources are the people that I'm talking about, and so they can't call somebody a crook.
Superstonk and the other communities that have emerged are a hive mind, the likes of which we have never seen before. It's madness and brilliance, insanity and genius all rolled into one. It's very possible that Citadel will be gone in a few months. And not just Citadel, but the entire financial system has the potential to come crashing down. These crooks continue to gamble recklessly with the world economy, and this could be the moment that they finally get their justice.